A man-eating lion once attended the funeral of a beloved servant of Allah. When the lion prostrated in sujood, everyone present was overcome with chills. What was the connection between this lion and the saintly man? And how did such a savage beast transform into a gentle creature? Let us hear this incredible story. There was a village nestled along the edge of a dense forest. The villagers lived through farming and raising livestock, but their lives were filled with terror due to a fearsome lion. Every night, the lion would enter the village, and cattle or goats would vanish from some household. Not only that, it had started attacking children and the elderly as well. A shadow of fear fell upon the entire village. People raised their hands in prayer to Allah. "O Lord, send one of your beloved servants who can guide this lion and protect our children and animals." The villagers only stepped out during daylight. By dusk, everyone would shut their doors and windows, hiding inside. If a traveler mistakenly passed that way, the next day, only his corpse would be found. Sometimes just bones, sometimes blood-soaked clothes. One day, by the will of Allah, a devout saint arrived in that village. When the time for prayer came, he sat beneath a tree to offer salah. His face glowed with divine light. He wore white clothes and held a tasbih in hand. A few villagers saw him and rushed to warn him. "Oh, respected one, there is a ferocious lion here who never lets a traveler return alive. Please, we beg you, leave this place." But the saint was absorbed in worship. After finishing his prayer, he smiled gently and said, "Let's see what this lion does today. I have come here by the command of Allah." Tears welled up in the eyes of the villagers. They began crying as they shared their pain. The saint looked up at the sky and took a deep breath. "I saw the faces of this village's children in a dream. I was told, 'This village awaits you. Do not worry.'" Night descended into deep darkness. The saint sat beneath the tree praying, "O Allah, guide this creature to the straight path." Suddenly, the lion's roar shook the entire forest. Its eyes glowed red. It looked starved, ferocious. But when it heard the saint reciting the Quran, it halted. Even the birds fell silent, captivated by the melodious recitation. The lion sat quietly in awe, its eyes fixed on the luminous face before it. After the prayer, the saint saw that same fearsome lion was now bowed before him, like an innocent child. He gently smiled and called out, "Come, my child, I will show you the way of Allah." This was the same terrifying lion whose very name made children tremble in fear, with glowing red eyes, striped fur, and a savage gait and demeanor. That night, it had set out in search of prey, but instead, it encountered a great soul, a beloved friend of Allah. The lion tried to roar again and again, but no sound came from its throat. Its legs began to tremble, it started to retreat, and then its eyes fell upon the saint's hands. Those hands bore only signs of worship. No stains of blood, no marks of oppression, only a radiant glow of light. The saint slowly opened his eyes, his gaze locked directly with the lion's, and time itself seemed to stand still. He said, "O creation of Allah, I have waited for you for so long, and today you have come." The lion was stunned. Once the king of the jungle, he now resembled a helpless child. The saint extended his hand and said, "Come, my child, you must be so tired." The lion slowly bowed its head and gently laid its massive body at the saint's feet, just like a child seeking shelter in its mother's lap. Tears began to flow from its eyes. Yes, the once fearsome beast was now crying. The saint stroked its head and said, "You too are a creation of Allah. Perhaps your soul had lost its way, but today it has found the path." All night, the lion remained beside the saint. The saint continued to pray, and the lion watched silently, as if absorbing every word into its heart. Morning arrived. The call to Fajr prayer echoed. The saint said to the lion, "From today, you are not just the king of the jungle, but a guardian of peace. He who bows his head in the name of my Lord is never savage again." The lion looked up at the sky and sighed deeply, as if a burden of 100 years had been lifted from his heart. From that very day, the lion underwent a complete transformation. He no longer roared, no longer attacked. He became a living embodiment of peace. The villagers witnessing this fell into prostration. They thanked Allah repeatedly. Peace has returned to our village. Days passed. That same lion would sit near the saint's feet, immersed in worship. People watched in awe. The lion never harmed anyone. When he saw children or cattle, he quietly walked past them. The villagers no longer feared the lion. In fact, they feared his absence. But Allah's will was different. One day, the saint suddenly fell ill with a fever. His face turned pale, his voice grew weak, but the light of faith still radiated from his face. The entire village gathered to care for him. One evening, he signaled for the imam and village elders to come. His face still bore that divine light and dignity, but his voice carried a trace of sorrow. He said, "Sit, my children. Today I will share with you something that is a trust from my Lord." Everyone sat silently. In a gentle tone, the saint continued, "My time is near. The message I came to deliver, I have conveyed to you. But do not lose heart after I am gone. Trials will come, and they will try to weaken you, but never bow down. Just remember your Lord." Tears began to stream down the villagers' faces. The women prayed in hushed voices while some children quietly sat near the saint's feet. The saint looked toward the sky, as if awaiting an unseen signal. Then he turned to everyone and said, "A special companion of mine will attend my funeral. He is not a man, nor a scholar, but a devoted servant of Allah." The villagers looked at one another in astonishment. He continued, "He will come silently, prostrate in sujud, and pray. Do not be afraid. He will come as a guardian." One man asked with a trembling voice, "Is it that lion, that ferocious beast?" The saint smiled and replied, "Yes, that same lion, whom you once called savage. Now he is a rememberer of Allah." Everyone fell silent. The saint raised his hands and said, "Whom Allah guides, he is never savage again." That night, the lion remained beside the saint. Moonlight fell upon him, and in his eyes was a strange sorrow, as if he understood everything, listened intently, and prepared himself inwardly for what was to come. The saint's condition worsened. The villagers tried all kinds of prayers, remedies, and treatments, but his illness only intensified. Finally, one night, just before Fajr, the saint gently closed his eyes. His tasbih slipped from his hand. With a soft smile on his face, he departed this world. The entire village fell into silence. That day, no one gave the call to prayer, and the birds didn't sing, and the lion, who sat motionless beside the body, suddenly roared as if his heart had been torn apart. As the villagers wrapped the saint's body in a shroud and placed it on the bier, the imam announced, "The funeral prayer will be held after Asr." People began to gather. Villagers from nearby towns, old disciples, and travelers. Everyone silently wondered the same thing. Will the lion come? Some were anxious. Children were frightened, and women began reciting prayers. The bier was being carried toward the cemetery. Even the sun seemed dim today. The imam arranged everyone in rows. Then came the unimaginable sight, the lion's arrival. It walked slowly, with its head bowed. Some people's legs began to tremble. A woman was about to scream, but the imam stopped her and said, "Be still." The saint had said, "This lion is our guest. Do not fear him." The lion came and sat near the funeral. A soft whimpering came from its throat. It looked once at the saint's face peeking from the shroud, still glowing with divine light and a peaceful smile. The funeral prayer began. With every takbir, the lion would fall into prostration. That once fearsome beast now stood shoulder to shoulder with men. No roaring, no aggression. He was simply accompanying his murshid, his beloved saint, on his final journey. When the imam began the janazah prayer, The lion stood silently at the back of the rows. At each takbir, it bowed in sujood, and during the supplication, it looked toward the sky, as if praying to the Lord for his beloved. The villagers wept quietly, overwhelmed by the scene. After the janazah, the saint was buried. The lion came and sat motionless beside the grave. He stared at the ground, as if saying in his heart, "You have gone and left me alone." From that day on, the lion never returned to the jungle. Its home became the side of the grave. Sun or rain, day or night, nothing could move him from there. He neither ate nor hunted. He simply sat motionless. Sometimes tears would fall from his eyes, and at times he would let out a roar, as if his heart had been shattered. The villagers often placed meat, water, or milk before him, but he never touched a thing. If someone approached, he would only lift his head, then rested back upon the grave. The elders of the village would say, "In life, we've seen many loyal beings, but the lesson in devotion this animal has given surpasses all our understanding." In the stillness of night, when all were asleep, a faint sound of weeping could be heard from the graveyard, as if a heart had completely broken. The same fearsome lion whose roar once shook the entire village was now crying like a helpless child. Some testify that one night the lion looked to the sky and cried out, "Oh, my lord, you freed me from savagery. Now take me to your beloved friend." Days passed. The lion remained seated in the shadow of the grave, alone. Its body grew weaker over time, its eyes reflecting profound emptiness. Yet its devotion never wavered. It neither left the grave nor returned to the jungle. Each night passed in tears, each day in silent supplication. One day, a few village children noticed something unusual. The lion was sitting atop the grave, and a strange ring of light was swirling around it. It appeared as though a heavenly glow had encircled him. The children ran to inform the villagers. When everyone arrived at the grave, what they saw deeply moved their hearts. The lion lay in prostration atop the grave. A supernatural light radiated from his body, as though a spiritual presence was being felt. From his mouth came the words of the kalima. That night the lion looked more exhausted than ever. Perhaps his unwavering devotion had worn his body down. He lay down beside the grave, resting his head on the ground and closing his eyes. It was his first true sleep. In that sleep, he entered a dreamlike realm, a silent, radiant, and peaceful world. There stood his beloved saint, in white robes, a luminous face, and a tasbih in hand. The lion immediately bowed his head. The saint gently smiled and said, "Rise, my child. I have been waiting for you." The lion lifted his head in awe, his eyes brimming with tears. The saint placed his hand on the lion's head and said, "One day, a great calamity will descend upon this village, a plague and a famine. A mother will lose her orphaned child. You must not remain silent then." "You are no longer just a lion," said the saint. "You have become a guardian of my Lord's creation." Tears streamed from the lion's eyes. The saint's words etched themselves into his heart. He now understood. His duty was not over yet. The saint said, "Very well. When that time comes, you will rise from the grave and appear as the answer to that mother's cry." A burst of light spread in all directions. The dream ended. The lion awoke. His forehead was drenched in sweat. He sat still, but now a new light had entered his heart, the light of a great responsibility. Suddenly, strange changes swept through the village. Birds flew away. The wells began to dry up. One by one, people fell ill. Fever, cough, weakness. Everyone stayed locked indoors. Fields were barren, livestock diseased, children lethargic. After the adhan, the mosque's imam announced, "This is not a famine. This is a test. This is the time for repentance." There was a widow in the village named Fatima. Her only support was her 6-year-old son, Suleiman. One day, Suleiman also fell ill with fever. Fatima went into the forest to gather medicinal herbs. In the meantime, no one noticed when her son left the house. When Fatima returned, Suleiman was nowhere to be found. It was a heartbreaking sight. Fatima, barefoot, hair disheveled, eyes full of tears, ran through the village, shouting, "Has anyone seen my son? Where is my Suleiman?" The village was silent. No one had any answer. That night, the lion sitting beside the grave grew restless. He looked toward the sky as if a voice rose from his soul. The time has come. The lion stood up from the grave. Villagers watched in astonishment through their doors and windows. That same lion, who hadn't moved for months, was now striding swiftly toward the forest. But there was no aggression in his steps, only a sense of divine duty. All night long, the lion searched the forest, through bushes, trees, hills, and rivers. Finally, he heard a faint cry. Beneath a rock, he found a wounded, trembling Suleiman. The child's breath was weak, his eyes closed. The lion quickly approached and gently picked the child up with his mouth. Suleiman's breathing slowly became steady, as though an angel from the heavens had touched him. By morning, the villagers had gathered near the mosque. All eyes widened in amazement. The lion stood beside the saint's grave, and sleeping peacefully on his back was Suleiman. Safe, calm, alive. Fatima came running. The lion slowly laid the child on the ground. She embraced her son and fell into prostration. "O Allah, you returned my child to me, and you returned him through the one we once thought to be a monster." The entire village fell into prostration. Some wept with the mother's tears, others kissed the lion's feet. The imam announced, "This lion is no longer the king of the jungle. He is a trust from a saint's dream. He's a sign from Allah." The days in the village became blessed. Each day the lion sat quietly beside the grave, listening in silence, eyes closed. He would guide children safely through the forest. Even now, once a week, a radiant light is seen descending upon the saint's grave. The people had now accepted the lion. Some lovingly called him Fakir Jangal. One day, an elderly traveler came to the village. His face shone with spiritual light. He sat beside the lion, wiping his tears, and said, "O creature, you have changed your nature. You were once savage, now you are a symbol of Allah's message. But do you know, your test is not yet over." The old man picked up a handful of soil and said, "Whomever Allah chooses, he also tests." That very week, a new calamity struck. A terrible fire broke out in the forest near the village. Birds and animals fled in panic. The villagers hid their children indoors, but one orphan child was trapped in the flames. He had wandered into the forest while playing. When his cries reached the lion sitting beside the grave, the lion immediately stood up. Before the astonished eyes of the people, he charged straight into the burning forest. The forest blazed fiercely. No one dared to enter, but there was not a trace of fear in the lion's eyes. He leapt into the fire. Flames surrounded him, burnt leaves lay in heaps, and smoke filled the sky. Without a thought for his own life, he ran toward the sound of the crying child. Behind a thicket, he found the unconscious child. Just as a mother cradles her child with love, the lion gently carried the boy in his mouth and rescued him. When he returned to the village, his body bore burn marks, his gait was weary, but his eyes shone with contentment. The boy's mother ran to him and held him close. The entire village gathered around the lion. That very night, the righteous people of the village all saw the same dream. In a garden of paradise, a beloved servant of Allah was walking, beside him a radiant lion, with light streaming from beneath his feet. The saint smiled and said, "This is the creature who was once a fearsome beast. My Lord changed his nature. He is now not just the king of the jungle, but the honored guardian of my grave. He remained steadfast in friendship and upheld it to perfection." In the dream, everyone heard a divine voice together. "Whoever transforms himself for my sake, I transform him with my mercy. This lion is a bearer of my message." Meanwhile, a shrine had been built over the saint's grave. Crowds began to grow. People came from nearby villages and even distant cities for visitation. Recitations of Fatiha, prayers, and tasbih were common, but strange new practices had also emerged. Some began placing cloths over the grave, others collected its soil, believing it to carry blessings. Gradually, the grave began turning into a place of worship. And most surprisingly, people began calling the lion Baba Singha. Baba Singha helps in times of trouble. Baba Singha's prayers are always answered. Whatever you ask for at Baba Singha's feet, you receive. Some women began prostrating before the lion, seeking healing and children. Some touched his paw and pressed it to their foreheads, saying, "We have come to your court, Baba. Have mercy on us." The lion saw it all in silence, understanding everything. But inside, he burned with anguish. Night after night, he paced restlessly around the grave, sometimes gazing at it, sometimes toward the heavens. The situation became unbearable for him, but he was a mute creature, without a voice to express himself. Then came that fateful night. Beside the grave, beneath a bright moon, the lion lay down, his chest heavy with pain. And in that moment, the door to a dream opened. Once again, the saint appeared, his face radiant with divine light, but this time, his expression held sorrow and anger. The lion fell into prostration, as if he knew he was about to hear painful truths. The saint spoke in a stern tone. "What is happening, my child? This is not the message I left behind. People are now calling upon us. They have forgotten their Lord. They are bowing to us and have abandoned prostration to the Lord of all worlds, the one who honored us." The lion raised his head, his eyes full of shame, helplessness, and tears. The saint said, "You were my faithful one, weren't you? You stood in my funeral. You guarded my grave. Now the time has come. You will guard my message." The lion lowered his eyes. The saint gently placed his hand upon his chest and said, "By the command of the Lord, you are given speech today." At that moment, light burst forth from the lion's entire body. He tried to roar, but now that roar carried the pain and power of guidance. "Go, call the people to the path of Tawhid." The dream ended. In the village, a fair was underway. People crowded around the grave. Some kissed the tomb. Others addressed the lion as Baba. One woman even fell into prostration before him. And then, the historic moment arrived. The lion roared mightily. But it was no ordinary roar. It was a clear voice. "Stop!" The entire atmosphere froze. Everyone stood in stunned silence, eyes wide, mouths shut. The lion slowly approached the crowd and said, "What are you doing? The one you bow to used to spend his days and nights in prostration to his Lord. The one you call upon, he remembered his Lord with every breath." Someone shouted aloud, "This lion is speaking!" The lion looked to the sky and said, "This is my Lord's power, so that I may make you understand." Tears flowed from his eyes. Pointing toward the grave, he said, "This is a grave, the resting place of a saint. But it is not a place of worship. It is a place of learning. Love him, honor him, but do not forget your Lord. He alone is the solver of problems. He alone fulfills needs." People stood in utter amazement. It felt as if time had stopped. The lion roared, "Do not commit shirk. Do not associate anyone with the Lord of all worlds, the one who made me your guardian. I was once a savage lion, and he made me a protector of his creation. And today, you have made Allah's beloved a deity." The woman broke down in tears. "Forgive us, Baba Singha, we were misguided." The lion replied in a trembling voice, "I am no Baba. I am merely a servant of Allah." Just then, clouds gathered in the sky. Lightning struck. and a radiant light began emanating from the grave. It felt as if the saint was smiling and saying, "My child, you have delivered my message." The entire village fell into prostration. From that day forward, people abandoned shirk. Now, only prayers were made beside the grave. The lion moved away from the grave and sat beside the mosque. He no longer played the role of a Baba. He had become a living symbol of divine guidance. Time passed. The lion spent the rest of his life in the shadow of the grave. The lion had now become a frail, bony creature. There was no longer any ferocity in his eyes, only the dampness of tears. He no longer hunted, nor did he roar. Whenever people came near the grave, he would sit silently, like a guardian, a witness, a faithful servant. Children would play beside him. Women called him Baba Singa, but he always lowered his eyes as if to say, "I am no Baba. I am the one in need of forgiveness." One day, the lion's condition began to worsen. His breathing grew heavy. With tear-filled eyes, he gazed toward the sky. Suddenly, his eyelids grew heavy. In his dream, he once again saw the saint, that luminous face, that peaceful smile. The saint came forward and extended his hand, saying, "My child, your time has come. The message you were sent with, you have delivered it. Now return to rest at my feet." Tears streamed from the lion's eyes. He said, "Oh, Sheikh, will my Lord accept me? I was once a fierce, violent creature." The saint smiled and said, "The Lord who sent Moses even to Pharaoh, why would his mercy not be for you? You have done what even many humans could not. You raised the voice of truth against shirk." The lion awoke in awe, and in the dream he fell into prostration, saying, "Oh, my Lord, you turned me from a beast into a servant. Please accept me." The next morning, the sun seemed dim, and the sky as if mourning. People gathered near the grave saw the lion lying still. He had entered eternal sleep. No roar, no movement, only serene peace. Someone softly said, "Baba Singa is gone." But an elder stood up and said, "No, he was no Baba. He was a devoted servant of Allah. Give him the honor that a righteous and faithful creature deserves. He saved you from shirk and protected your future generations." Tears filled everyone's eyes. It was decided the lion would be buried beside the saint. His body was so light, as if the soul had already ascended. As the grave was dug, a gentle light glimmered. Someone said, "The saint is smiling, welcoming his loyal companion." The lion was laid into the earth, people recited prayers, and now, on everyone's lips was only the name of Allah. People could not forget the lion. Where once candles were lit, now Quranic recitation echoed. Where threads were tied, now hands rose in supplication. They had learned, honor Allah's beloved servants, but worship only Allah. One day, a child came to the grave and asked, "Mom, is Baba Lion buried here?" The mother smiled and replied, "Yes, my dear, but he wasn't really a Baba. He was a lion who showed us the way like our true father, Allah. He taught us never to ask anyone but Allah for help." The child asked, "Then why do we go to shrines? Why do we make vows there?" Tears filled the mother's eyes. She said, "Because, my dear, some people are still lost. They think those buried in the ground can do everything." The child said firmly, "No, Mom, from now on I will only pray to Allah." And so, the lion's grave became a symbol of guidance, of truth, of monotheism. But the grave left behind a timeless message. O people, do not turn graves into places of worship. Allah's beloved servants give guidance, but they are not lords. Honor them, learn from them, but ask only from the one who gives all. In today's world, shirk, polytheism, takes many forms. Making vows at shrines, asking things at graves, lighting candles, or calling Ya Ghaus, Ya Ali. These are actions through which people equate creation with the Creator. Allah says in the Quran, Indeed, Allah does not forgive associating others with Him, but He forgives what is less than that for whom He wills. A new dervish began to say, "Light candles in Allah's house, do not hope for anything from the grave. Pray only to Him who hears and responds. Only Allah." He placed a sign near the shrine. Before making a vow here, ask yourself, are you stretching your hands to the creation or to the Creator? Slowly, the people woke up. The mosques revived. The light of Allah's greatness glowed in their hearts. This story's true message was, the light of Tawheed dispels the darkness of shirk.